If you object in any way to this episode, speak now or forever hold your peace. But hopefully you won't. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And this week we will be discussing a brand new release. Well, a new old release, actually. We are doing Taylor Swift's Speak Now, Taylor's version, her third of 6 re-recorded albums. She, for those who don't know, has been re-recording her first 6 albums because her masters were sold to another company and she didn't like that. So she's taking her ownership back because she feels artists should own their work and doing a power move on everybody by going back and recording all her old albums. So we're now halfway done it, and you would think we're doing it in chronological order, but we're not at all, actually. The albums, the one before this and the one after this, we've gotten already, but now we're in the middle of that with Speak Now.
It's super wild to see. And we've had conversations on this podcast. We've had conversations off of this podcast just about the sheer brilliance of taking back your music. We've seen it happen so many times throughout history where somehow somebody that artist might not want to have the rights to their music has it. And it's not just empowering, but it's pretty wild in this day and age to really see this woman just getting her stuff back, rightfully so. So good for you, Taylor. Good for you.
Yeah. And interestingly, the company that did buy it ended up selling them anyway. So
really,
yeah, I think they I'm guessing Scooter Braun got nervous when he heard about these re-recordings. He knew they'd be devalued. And I mean, Taylor's not a fan of the guy, and all I'm gonna say is he's Justin Bieber's manager. I think that tells you what you need to know about that guy. I don't think that paints him in a good light.
now, and I understand there's a lot of momentum going forward or while she's doing this, but now that it's sold from Braun to someone else, do you think she makes the play to buy the rest back? Or do you think she says, screw it, you guys now have the old copies and I'm about to blow it up, you know?
Nope, she's dived into this project and she's gonna keep doing it. That is the point we're at. We're just gonna keep doing it, and as she said now, based on her tour, she's in her era's era. So she's just kind of doing it all right now. I mean, her current singles from an album from 4 years ago.
There you go. There you
So,
go.
and we have a re-recording of an album that's almost 13 years old, and the last album hasn't even been out for a year. So we are truly in the era's era, but we got to go back to 2010 before we really get to today to discuss the re-recording. So circa 2010, Taylor Swift had already had 2 very successful albums. And she recently put out a prologue, actually, writing about this time, and said she was under intense pressure to follow up one of the most successful albums in country music history, which was Fearless, which had worldwide smashes like Love Story and You Belong With Me. So there definitely was a lot of pressure in that regard, but she also really wanted to prove herself as a writer because there were people taking shots at her saying like she can't sing and criticizing her love life, and she really wanted to show she was a true artist and not an industry creation. She wanted to show she was in it for real, so she intentionally set out to make Speak Now a self-written album where she composed every single song, words and music, by herself. No co-writers. And she's always been the primary, to say the least, lyricist on her music, but this is a unusual thing. This is the only album of hers that stands out this way.
What a challenge at the age of 18 to 20
Yeah.
that she's writing all these songs by herself to prove. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, and she had a lot that she had to say, it turned out. So we got this album, and When it was released, it actually debuted with first week sales of over 1 million copies, which was pretty shocking to hear of for 2010, but now that's the norm for this artist. Though interestingly, from what I remember back during that era, she certainly had her fans, but this album definitely didn't have the huge hits that the previous one did. It didn't feel like as big of a deal, and at least at the time, it's like obviously she was selling tickets and albums, but I don't really remember a lot of these songs crossing over to pop radio at the very least. Like that era, I felt like it was very Katy Perry, Rihanna, Gaga. Like those were the girls of that time. Taylor wasn't in that conversation really quite yet. She began to be with the follow up album, and those songs I remember were in really heavy rotation, but this one I feel like in some ways fell to the wayside, but it's always been a fan favorite amongst the Swifties. And really, the last album of hers that a lot of people would consider in any way to be a country album. But even then, we're definitely hearing her move away from that sound very much on certain tracks on this album. So, what do you recall from the era the first time? Do you remember this album being really a big thing?
I'm actually glad you said what you just said, because as I was going through this, I was searching my memories and trying to figure out why I never heard any of these songs on the radio. Like going down the original track list, I don't remember them like that. I don't remember them. Now there are, because it's that artist, as in any artist, we have these little nuances that show up throughout their music. And they almost started in my crazy brain to convince me that I knew these songs, but I didn't. And 2010, I don't. She was a young face to me. She was. I don't know if I. You know what? I'm not going to say I don't know. I didn't believe in her like I believe in her now. Through finding her music back then. Not to be in a negative light on it. It's not that I didn't think she had talent. The girl could sing from the get-go, and she was a beautiful young lady. But the fact of the matter was, I did think what you alluded to before, where she had to get out of the mold on this. I still had her in that mold of, oh, they're making another little cute blonde country artist. Cool. Kudos to her, and she's got some fun stuff, and she's dating John Mayer. That's the extent of what I knew about her at 2010. In 2010, that's all I really knew of her. Yeah, so she didn't really or this album really didn't make an impact on me as far as me remembering any of it.
Yeah, I didn't listen to this until like 2019, actually. I kind of steered away from it for a long time because it was country, and at the time, I just think the songs weren't for me, and they weren't written for me. They were written to speak to teenage girls in particular. It was their perspective that was being shared, and that wasn't where I was at that point in time. I was in eighth grade when this came out, so this just wasn't it for me. And when I wanted my pop music, I really was going for the escapist route through it all, was where I was, like I said, with your Katy Perry and Rihanna's. That's what I was listening to. And that was not what Taylor Swift was doing, though. But she was carving out her huge niche at this time, I guess you could say.
I'll tell you what, I got to give credit to whoever, whether it was label, whether it was manager, whether it was Taylor Swift on her own, sticking up for herself, but letting this album come out without, in my opinion, like super pop hits, especially at that point in her career. They really, from what I see, and this is hindsight, they really let her take the reins on this. And I mean, we already stated, she was writing the entirety of these songs from 18 to 20. And there are no, in my opinion, not to get too far ahead of myself, but there's no real, I'll start using the word now. The machine, we always talk about it. There's no real imprint of the machine on this album. And I like that. I love that. And I'll raise a question and we can answer it as we go through, but I don't think this album is possible in the extent that we got it if they didn't let her go at her own open mind of an 18 to 20-year-old, because this is I'll use the word raw, but this is a raw look into the mind of this girl throughout those 2 years. And I won't use genius just yet, but I think it's really, really an awesome way to do an album.
Oh yeah.
Especially for a young artist inside, and I've already started. So inside of the machine, it's really, in a happy way, mind blowing to see that they let her make this album.
Yeah. And let's be clear, this was a big leap for her. Like, we are seeing the footprints of what we're going to get in the future. And the album was actually originally going to be titled Enchanted, but Scott Borchetta, head of Big Machine Records, who did have a pretty nasty falling out with Taylor Swift over the sale of her masters, but he said, this is a more grown-up Taylor. You can't call the album Enchanted. Like, that's fairy tales. We're
Makes
moving
sense.
into something different here, and that's why we got this title Speak Now. And it works because this is in many ways that confessional style of album that we're getting here. And I think it's very important. And well, I'll tell you now, folks, if you like tea involving celebrities, buckle up. We've got some for you. With This is the celebrity gossip album. I'll say that now for Taylor Swift. This is the one.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but when I was reading about it, I don't think it was back then. I think it was after the fact that she released it, but she said that this album was basically, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but basically a bunch of letters to the people that she had met throughout these 2 years, and saying things that, I don't know if she said she wishes she would have said, but again, paraphrasing, stuff that she wanted to say that she didn't.
Yeah. Things she should have said, I guess you could say. So
Heard.
that's why she's speaking now and not forever holding her peace. That's the whole point of this.
E-
So
Exactly. What a perfect title for that kind of album, especially if that's where it is in your head as an artist.
yep. And yeah, now we have the re-recording out, and it's already broken two huge records. It had the biggest streaming day for a new release on Spotify of the year so far, and it's now the biggest first day for any country album ever. So
Yeah.
take that, Morgan Wallen, with your 36 song album.
I'll tell you. I'm
Take
sorry.
that.
Take that. I tell you, it's not that the numbers blow my mind, because I've come to expect them with her caliber. But they're wild numbers, man. They are
These are
wild.
re-recordings. People
Yes,
already know
yes,
most of these songs. There's well over half of them have been around for a long time.
yeah. And speaking of the re-recordings, just so I don't have to say it over and over and over again, there is such a meticulous concentration on keeping these songs so close to the source material. When I first started to go at this, I picture like loading up one here and one here side by side and just being like, all right, let's find the differences. But it's futile. And I
Yeah.
figured that out by like the third, fourth track on the album. It's futile because there's been so much of a meticulous concentration to make this perfect. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'll even go out on a limb and say that she took a younger tone with her voice,
Oh yeah.
for the actual tracks that were on the original album. It's almost like she sang a little younger, and I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Because we're going back to that. We're going back to that place. So there we have. That's
Has this
really.
yeah, has it I'm sorry, it's just it really, we haven't talked about it yet, and it blows my mind. Like, has this ever really happened in the history of music?
There's never been an artist doing this kind of project on this caliber.
Yeah, it's really cool, really, really
Yeah.
cool.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco, comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
It is very neat. And yeah, with that being said, let's dive into Speak Now, Taylor's version. I'm very excited to do so. The album begins with Mine, which was the lead single for the album back in 2010. This one I think sounds even better now than it did back then. This was a hit. I remember it getting some rotation. It just wasn't as big as the big hits off the previous album. It wasn't quite that omnipresent, but it did its thing. And at the time, I felt like this is kind of the same old from her. But now I enjoy this song a lot. I mean, it definitely shows off her storytelling skills. I mean, you made a rebel of a careless man's careful daughter. That's one of the best lines in any song ever. And it's got that big old pop hook in it there that contains the line I just mentioned. So I have a lot of respect for this song. I've always enjoyed it. Well, since 2019 at least, I've enjoyed it when I really took the time to appreciate it. And I think it's the perfect opener for the album.
Yeah. I mean, first track, and you're talking, in my opinion, of almost like first love, like that first time you find love. What a better way to start an album about the last 2 years of your life and how it made you feel. That line, I'm going to say it again because it needs to be said a million times. And I'll also apologize to anybody who's heard it a million times before. A lot of this is first time listen for me as far as going through this album. But you made a rebel of a careless man's careful daughter. Whew, I stopped it. The first time I listened to the song, I stopped it right there, rewound it, and was like, wait a minute, what she say? Her lyrical prowess, I mean, we've gone through and said this, but I mean, her lyrical prowess is just top caliber, top tier. And then at 3 minutes when this song, the back drops off it, and she's in the spotlight by herself, but the musicality of it is so genius because as she comes back into where you think she's just going to keep singing, instead she just belts out mine, the word mine, and rolls it while the band picks back up and goes on like she's still singing. It's really top-notch stuff, man. And like I said, it's not like it happened on the re-recording. This was there on the original track, and it's crazy to see an artist this young grasp these concepts. That's why she's still here. That's why she's doing what she's doing. That's why she's doing the numbers she's doing. That's why some people might call her the new Grateful Dead as far as a touring band goes. This is why this lady does what she does, and it shows off here. Great opener.
I completely agree. Yeah. Excellent opener and tough to follow, but we're going to keep it going with track number 2, Sparks Fly. This song actually dates back before Speak Now. It dates back to her debut era. She first performed it at live performances in 2007, and some bootleg video that became a fan favorite. That's her being Grateful Dead already there with
Right.
the bootlegging, but fans were really asking her to put it on her next album by the time Speak Now was about to be released. And so she listened, but reworked it a bit, understandably, to make it fit more with these songs. And yeah, it's basically about her just trying to resist a man, but it's really hard. This is definitely what I call a high stakes kind of song. I mean, drop everything now, kiss me in the pouring rain. It's just full blown teenage romanticism here. This is a hot tea take. This song is beloved by a lot of people. I've always kind of found this song to be overrated. I think there are better songs on this album, and it's just too much all around the bit, and I think the epic kind of track is done epic romantic track is done much better later on the album. This one doesn't quite hit that height for me. I think it's a good song. I just think there's better songs here.
You make it easier for me when I'm coming in on this one, because retroactively, and I say that like finding Taylor today and going backwards as we have almost in
Yeah,
our
we
listening,
have.
she has already set such a high bar for me. So when Sparks Fly started the first time, I had a lump in my throat because I thought, oh my gosh, like it's very in the beginning, in the intro, it's very similar musically. And here we are in this fledgling love. It's on display again. We're only on track 2, and it always almost feels repeated, like you said. But she does a good job here. You can't take beautiful lyrics away, and she gets that really profound "Kiss Me in the Rain" moments here. And it's not really stuffed down our throat, which I enjoy. I think my favorite part of this, and really a breath of fresh air, like, okay, calm down, you're setting the bar way too high, is at 254, the syncopation. I really love that syncopation at 254. It gives an edge to this song that this song needed musically for me. And then it's softened and stripped down, and then we crescendo into the outro. And I really like how that's done. It was a moment, it was an oh shit moment in a negative way coming into Sparks Fly, like, oh no, 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 no. Is young Taylor like a repeat song kind of girl? Not knowing her, but not the case. I could see where you're saying not the favorite, and I can see where you're saying I actually really agree with you on the case of it is done again on this album, and in our opinions, better. But it's not a terrible song,
No,
It's
not at
it's a
all.
good one. Yeah.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
It's just when we're deciding between a lot of good songs, we gotta be a little we gotta the quest for quality is ruthless, I would say.
Most definitely. I love to chuckle with her going through her lyrics, because she's such a artist in that area. And when she like draws upon stuff that I can only imagine was near and dear to her teenage mind, like Kisses in the Rain, I automatically thought a Notebook, whether or not that was the inspiration, but it was there for her. She does a great job doing that. I still love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say I always loved it for her, because I'm a young Swifty
Well,
in the sense of knowing her, but I love it.
I mean, I kind of am in some ways like too, because this wasn't my era, but the music, I think that's part of the beauty of these re-recordings, actually, is if you
Yeah.
weren't there listening the first time, or maybe didn't like it as much before, now that you are a fan, you can go back and appreciate it in a different way. I think that's a really cool thing to be doing. And I was familiar with the original version of the album, but I do think it's cool to experience it in an all new way.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the last time I think I'm going to get that, because 1989 and Reputation, I was there for. I remember those eras
Right.
pretty well, but that's for very future podcasts. So
I think that's where a lot of these numbers are coming from too. Is that same exploration of maybe people that maybe even younger heads that
oh,
found her later
definitely.
on.
Yeah, because
That's cool, man.
she's still got a lot of teenage fans who love the newer stuff and kids, but now they're going back and hearing the older stuff too, which I think is really neat. And it's already showing how her music is standing the test of time already.
There was another band that did that when I was in my teenage years. I found a an album called Dick's Picks, and it was the Grateful Dead.
Of
And what they do
course.
is Dick's Picks are old Grateful Dead shows that they bring out of the archives, and me, a young head, was falling in love with these ones that my elders already knew about. So just goes to show Taylor's Grateful Dead, 100%.
Yep, that's that's where we're going. But we can't say that our next song is like the Grateful Dead or the previous two songs for that matter. If you thought the first two songs were too similar, we are going to get something all new at this point. Our first ever Taylor Swift apology song, Back to December. Yeah, she never done an apology song. That was pretty well documented, so it was pretty surprising that she did this. And at the time she said, quote, guys get what they deserve in my songs, and if they deserve an apology, they should get one. There was someone who was absolutely wonderful to me, and I dropped the ball, and I needed to say all that. So there you have it right there. And this one, it's very direct. It's not the most. It's not quite as like high on the big imagery as some of the other songs, I don't think, but it hits to the point. It's like, this is me swallowing my pride and telling you I'm sorry for that night. And that's just really the best way you can say it. And it's backed by this beautiful orchestral arrangement. And it's just a beautiful, I mean, it's got elements of country, it's got elements of pop. It's a really beautiful composition. And here's how you know it's a good song. On the country playlist at my last job, this was the one song from this album on it, and I didn't get sick of this one because it's such a damn good song. So there we have it. Back to December is definitely a winner.
It's a great one. I know adults that aren't capable of saying sorry. So for
Oh
a
yeah.
a 20-year-old girl to be able to put that in front of the world, I that's mad respect to her on that. As far as the musicality of this one goes, this is the first time we really hear these strings, like you said, this orchestra arrangement behind her, and I love it. It has this like wintry feeling to me, maybe because I equate like winter with Christmas, and we get these tonal bells that are in there, and I love that. But I think the thing that I love about this most, or one of the things that I love the most about this musically, is that there is this beautiful mandolin part that's picked throughout. And even though this song has this very cinematic string vibe, orchestra vibe, they never drown out this mandolin piece that runs throughout. And then, of course, to add more to the cinematics at 2:56, we get that beautiful distorted guitar to ramp this ballad up just a little bit more. It is really an awesome, awesome song.
Yes. And you know, it's kind of fitting that it has a wintry feeling because, well, it's been accepted that it's about a guy who was in a vampire movie. So
Oh,
yeah.
really? Okay.
Yeah, now we're at Who's the Song About? That's this is our first one of those on this album. Yet it was pretty quickly people back then were picking up this is about Taylor Lautner, who was at the time a big star because of his role in the Twilight series, which was a huge thing. I was never into it. I once saw the clips on a camp field trip and fell asleep during it. So there that was where I was, but he later actually said himself in 2016, yeah, the song's about me. And well,
Huh.
funny enough, they're good friends now, and we'll be hearing about him when we get to the vault tracks on this album. He'll be making another appearance here.
Who was he? I mean, here, I'll show my age on
He
this
was
one.
Jacob, the werewolf.
The werewolf guy, the dark-haired guy.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. She was boyfriend and girlfriend with him.
for a little bit, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, not Edward the Vampire, not Robert
I
Pattinson.
couldn't see her with the
No,
Batman.
it's not. He was still with Kristen Stewart, though, not together anymore. But hey,
Right now.
now Robert Pattinson's the Batman. He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
Basically, he's Bruce Wayne.
So this was about the werewolf. Back to December is about the werewolf guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
All
that
right.
works perfectly. Yes. But we're not going to talk about anybody famous on the next song. We're going to get cheeky with our title track, Speak Now. This was inspired by an unnamed friend of Taylor's whose ex was getting married to a horrible woman, in Taylor's words. And with that, it's kind of one of those things when they say at a wedding, if anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. And she kind of makes a song about that just off the get-go. Like, I am not the kind of girl who should be rudely barging in on a white veil occasion, but you are not the kind of boy who should be marrying the wrong girl. And I love this song the first moment I heard it. It's totally tongue in cheek. I love her delivery on it, and she does the delivery so well again. I was worried. I'm like, is she gonna get it down perfectly again in 2023? And she did. And I think this is probably her most humorous song, which I appreciate. We're really seeing that sense of humor. There's some people who are not fans of this song. They see it as kind of lightweight, throwaway, but this is one of my favorites here. I am because of this song, I am not the kind of boy who should be marrying the wrong kind of girl.
I'm telling you right now, full on honesty here. I got mad at her the first time I heard this because I took it too literally. And I was like, what are you doing? Ruin somebody's marriage, girl. Get out of here with that nonsense. Then I got to read about it, and it was her friend's story. And then she said she woke up from a nightmare where one of her old boyfriends or something to that effect was in the same place. And she was like, I gotta write this song now. And I'm glad I got to read that because it really is a fun song. But I'm sorry, Taylor, I was way too hard on you on the first listen through of this, and I was mad at it. What kind of message is this that we're sending? Musical, no, I can't say it's throwaway. It's a solid composition. I don't know if it was the first time in this album or the first time that I'd really noticed it from her, but she's got a really awesome way of going from almost a falsetto down to spoken, almost speak singing. And it's super showcased in this. And I love it. I love it. This song is such a fun song.
Yes. And crazy enough, we're now quarter of the way through the album for today. And with that being said, I think this is a good moment to tell you all, if you haven't already, to follow us on social media at Turntables and Tea Podcasts on Facebook and Instagram, at Turntables Tea on Twitter, and also subscribe and rate us wherever you're listening to us. That would be much appreciated. And with that being said, just keep on listening because we're about to get real deep for our next one. No more tongue in cheek here. We're at the infamous track 5 on the Taylor album, the emotional centerpiece, and this one is called Dear John, and it is a breakup ballad, and it's definitely about John Mayer. And she says that I don't reveal who my songs are about, but I mean, the Dear John letter is kind of a trope. That is her excuse for covering it up, and it does work in that, but there's no mistaking who it's about. This is who she was dating at the time, and then the blues guitar riffs on it. It's it's such a knock at him, and yeah, that's definitely the musical dig in addition to the lyrics. And I mean, whatever you're thinking going in, whatever you think of these two people, let's not kid ourselves. She wrote in the prologue for this, she considered this her most scathing song, and I mean, I don't disagree, frankly. I mean, don't you think 19's to be young to be played by your dark, twisted games? It's like, whoa, like she really takes us there. But something that I think people overlook about this song is kind of her vulnerability. She's not just putting somebody down by saying, like, don't you think I was too young to be messed with? She's also saying at the end of each time, I should have known. She says, like, my mother told me, don't do this. My friends are telling me, don't do this. I think it's a bit more of a complex story than some listeners realize. I'll say that. And but the song itself, I mean, I can't take anything away from it. It's almost 7 minutes long, and I don't think any of it's wasted.
Nope, none at all. None at all. And here's another one. I hope everybody gets as much of a laugh out of it as I do, but I have set the bar so high for her that even And me being a huge John May fan, I knew that John May and Tay Tay stuff went down. I knew that was real. And I always think of them together, but sure as shit, I didn't put him on this. And in fact, I'm looking at him right now. My first note for this one was serious John Mayer vibes in this composition. And what I was saying was, I really thought that the blues guitar in here sounded a lot like John Mayer. But the Dear John trope is a perfect way to encapsulate this. But also, like you said, the Dear John thing is not something to be taken lightly, and it's very complex. She let him have it in this one. You've already touched a few, but at one point she was like, your sick game of giving love and taking it away. Like, she gave it to Johnny May on this. And I love both of these guys, and it's tough to hear when you know it's about John Mayer, because not my Johnny would never do something like that. But it's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song, and I laugh at myself for not realizing that it was about John Mayer. Taylor, hot tea take, Taylor. If you're too young to get in the game, don't get in the game, girl. You knew you were 19 messing with Johnny May. That's how that goes. I gotta have my back.
the Swifties are gonna come for you. They're saying he groomed her and all this.
Well, see, I don't know any of that, but what I'm saying is John Mayer's a stand-up gentleman. And
I'm not sure he was at this point in time. He has a checkered relationship history, period, not just with.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Some of that is in jest, but it's really tough to hear this breakup song of all breakup songs, because I love both these guys. You know, they're both great artists, and it's tough to hear. It's very complex. So people that say that it's not, I'm right with you. It is something that she poured her heart out, and I'm glad she took 7 minutes to do it, in all honesty. And I'm 100% where we started. There is no time wasted here at all. It's a good one. It's a powerful song.
But as great of a song as it is, remember, people, as Taylor Swift before performing this as a surprise song, she told her fans, "Don't defend me over something that happened a long time ago, and please leave people alone." So,
you trying to save me or John Mayer?
more so John Mayer in this case. He actually he posted on his Instagram a photo of a fireworks display saying, "Please be kind," the day of this album's release.
I love it. I love
and,
it.
I'm not gonna lie, some of the comments were hysterical.
But
Just remember, people, do not cross the line in your harassment. I've heard of people giving the man death threats. Let's not go there. Not cool. And remember, these people are celebrities. You don't know them personally. They are not your friends.
In fact, let's pin that thought, because later on this album, our one and only Taylor Swift teaches us how to do that the most beautiful way ever. So let's pin that up there for right now.
Yes, yes, but I'm guessing that later is not our next song, because we got some more put downs in us with our next song, which is Mean. This was one of the bigger hits off this album back in the day. It wasn't I don't remember it being like huge, but it got rotation. But I definitely first heard this song on Glee, because I did watch that at a point in time. Not sure I could rewatch it, knowing what we know now about some of the people on that show. But
curiously, how did they frame the song in Glee as far as the narrative of this
all
song?
I remember was that the coach sang it. That's all I remember. I haven't watched the show in a long time, and not sure I'll be able to rewatch it, because way too much baggage with one series. I'm not going to say it's cursed. I think that's silly, but a lot going on there. But enough about Glee. We're going to talk about the song, because she wasn't thinking of Glee when she wrote the song. No, this song, it's widely believed it's about one critic in particular, a guy named Bob Lefsetz. He had a blog back in 2010, and he wrote a not nice review of Taylor Swift's 2010 Grammy performance with Stevie Nicks. He was not a fan and he criticized her weak vocals. And let's be real, she's not was not given the best voice. She had a pretty limited range coming in. She's gotten much better over time, and she's always said, like, I'm a songwriter first. My voice is just how I put my songs out there. Like,
Hmm.
she said that. Like, she knows that she wouldn't have won American Idol. She's aware of that. And but it just goes to show you it doesn't always have to be like that to make good music. You don't have to be the American Idol winner. So, and yeah, these put downs are pretty straightforward. Like, they kind of sound like Kitty insults, like, someday I'll be living in a big old city and all you're ever gonna be is mean and a liar and pathetic and alone. And but you know what? You can't get mad at this song. It's the most country song here, but I love it. I love the instrumentation of it all. I love the banjos and the fiddles. It's just a fun song, and I think in its own way it fits in with a trope in pop music of the time, which was that empowerment song. We talked about that before on our Lady Gaga episode, Born This Way. This is kind of her version of that, or Firework, in the country way to be doing that. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. And I mean, you know what? The song, it all, this is one of those songs, we all know somebody like this. We all do. And that's why it resonates all this time later, I think.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked how it was framed in Glee, because for
Oh,
me,
that coach did. I'm remembering it now. That coach was not well received by the student body at all because
so
they
but
just
it was, I'm
yeah.
sorry, it was criticism though, right? So like,
Yes.
see, for me, this fits as a I'll see you later too. See, because she has already got my mind in so much love, 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 lost, first love. We're talking about all different types of love. When we get here, I'm immediately thinking that she's singing this to a lover, an ex-lover that she's leaving behind. Like, I'm going to be in big cities, I'm going to be doing my thing. And I feel like it works like that too. It wasn't until I found by reading up on it that it was about a critic that I was like, oh, that makes sense. But you're right, because with that banjo and fiddle, and second of all, stop reading my notes because I don't have much to say after you say everything I have written down. But I mean, the banjo and fiddle in this are so powerful. They're perfect because it's that, I almost said mean girl, but it's that empowered lady, kick your butt kind of thing in this country form. And what better instrumentation to have behind you than a banjo and a fiddle at this point? This is another cool, fun one. Like, this one is on the level of Speak Now to me as far as the funness of it. I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it when she was yelling at some dude, but now that I know she's yelling at a critic, and it still lives to this day because look at all the trolls. We live in the land of trolls, so
Yep.
it's there. This is the song to all the trolls out there, and I love it even more because of it.
Yes. It is always going to be relevant. I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So all you damn trolls. But she's going to be going back to talking about a troll we've already discussed on this album in Taylor's mind. We're back to old Johnny Boy with the story of us, and because we have figured it's about him because she said in an interview that this song was about the same person Dear John was about. She did say that back in the day, apparently. So that kind of narrows it down a bit. But it was actually inspired by their encounter at an award show, which is very real. It's not real life for everybody, but being two music industry professionals, that's something that will happen. You will run into each other at events. And so I feel like what's interesting about this song to me is it's a very somber song lyrically. I mean, of course, it's the story of us looks a lot like a tragedy now. Like, this could have been some great, like, gentle acoustic country ballad. It has that vibe to it, but no, this is Taylor going pop punk, actually. That's the main kind of thing we're going for here. It's got those really punchy guitars and big chorus. And yeah, pop punk is not my genre at all, but I do really enjoy this song a lot, actually. I've always loved the delivery, especially the spoken word next chapter. Love it. And I like the juxtaposition of the music and the lyrics. I think it works really well.
It does indeed. I mean, right from the start for me on this one, because this intro, this song in its whole, I won't do the intro just yet. This song in its whole for me is an evolution of her on this album. It's very close to a midpoint. It's the number 7, so it's already my favorite track, but this is really, in my opinion, an evolution. And right here in this intro, we get a look at it, and it's a very quick look, but I think it's a very powerful look because right from the start, we get heavy drum and we get this powerful, distorted guitar, but then quickly. So this anger when she's walking into this room is where I'm taking it. And then very quickly, it seamlessly goes right back into that banjo and just a single bass drum, which is that country girl. So she goes angry and then maybe composes herself just a tad before yelling here. I love that these little nuances are inside of this composition and they're very well done. I must say, and all the joking I did before about her and John Mayer, this is a very true heartbreak song. In fact, I cried on one of the listens. I'm not afraid to say that. I cried on one of the listens of this one because it's very eloquently put and it's sad. And in fact, and I'll say it, she loved John Mayer. And I'll say that with all confidence because of this song right here. But I do love the spoken word. I love that next chapter and the end at the end. It's very point to fact, but this is a very heartbreaking song, in my opinion. And I love the way it's packaged. I think this is one of the genius songs on this album for me. And I really dig this one.
Yeah. I will say, I think because of the pop punk sound kind of it from the original, I do think it's lost some of that youthful bite to it. But as we said, it's still a brilliant composition and a fantastic song, and that is a nitpick. Um, Here I don't. Yeah, that's just me being nitpicky. But as we said, the quest for quality is ruthless. But we're going to take a really big turn after that one with our next song, which is Never Grow Up. I think the title kind of gives away what the song's about. It's about childhood and growing up too fast. I think it's really neat how it's kind of done from 3 different vantage points. Like at first, it's like the young mother, then it's kind of like she's singing to a teenager, like, yeah, your mom might be embarrassing you, but don't make her drop you off around the block. That's my favorite of the verses, actually. I think that was a and then we get to her kind of current famous Taylor Swift, like here I am in my new apartment, wishing I'd never grown up. And just I think this is kind of a love it or hate it song. This is a song that I think somebody could easily say this is so just Treckly or whatever, but um I find it, if anything, I find it more affecting now coming from 32, 33-year-old Taylor Swift than I do 20-year-old Taylor Swift. It just hits different, pun intended for the Midnights fans out there. Uh yeah, I do think like this have been on one of the albums before? Yeah, I don't think it has like the steps ahead in songwriting that we get on some of the prior songs here, but I do think that it's I'm a sucker for a touching song like this one. I do find the song to be moving.
I am with you on so many different pieces of what you just said, but one that I have to disagree is I feel like it fits 100% here, because this in my interpretation is her sending a letter to herself. This is what she should have said to herself, and she didn't in those 2 years. And now I'm going to go off on a tangent, and you've touched some of this, but I am truly fascinated by this song. Okay, for me, when I started listening to this song, I heard the song as a parent singing to their daughter. But like you said, by the third verse, when she starts this awesome strumming pattern, right, and then starts to talk and really like telling herself to remember little key things about life, and you're like, wait a minute, and then boom, she starts going into first person, and literally I was dumbfounded, because this beautiful song that I was imagining myself sing to my daughter as she grows up becomes a self-exploration narrative, and I didn't even see it coming, and I'm floored at this point. And it gets more powerful, because she's now singing. I now realize that she's singing it to herself, and then boom, like a wave, it hits me that the underlying fact of all this is she's playing a solo acoustic song, and I didn't realize it until I figured out that it was a self exploration or a self narrative, and it blew my mind. This is another one that I'll put genius on this one. I am fascinated by this song. I've probably listened to this song like 12, 15 times since we started going at it, and it's found its way into my playlist, because this one, not even just as a father of a daughter, just as a musician and a lover of music, period, this is chef's kiss on this one, man. Like, you look at singer-songwriter, especially self-written stuff, this is top tier stuff. Blown away by this song.
Absolutely. Yes. And but well, spoiler alert, we're gonna get blown away in a different way, as in swept off our feet, with the next song, which is Enchanted. In her new prologue for this album, Taylor called this her most wistfully romantic song, and I mean, I'm finding it hard to argue with that one, frankly. This is kind of a love at first sight song, I guess you could say. That's really the best way. And it's over the top, like, in its way, but that's definitely intentional. And I think this is the song I was referring to when I say I think we get that epic love song much better here than we did on Sparks Fly, because this is an almost 6 minute song, and she's just created this majestic song that's really the best word I can use to describe. I mean, this night is sparkling indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we're at a part in the album where maybe it's just because I'm coming from song to song, but like they're all starting to really just blow me away at this point. This one not as much as Never Grow Up, but this one was another one where it was that whisper and bring the listener closer that I always talk about for me at first on this one. But when I actually start to realize that that whisper is just the start of this conversation that she's having with herself after a night of, you said it perfectly, and I didn't even put those words in here, but a love at first sight. But in this fact, it's a love at first sight, and then you walk away from it and stay up thinking about it,
Yeah.
then that whisper grows, and as it's the beginning of this thought slash conversation, it matches with the composition, and as this thought slash conversation spins and spirals, how we do sometimes when we're in these situations, the composition follows it, and I love that. It really picks up momentum and crescendos with the thought, and I think that it's perfect there. Hot tea take for me, this could have been a Midnight's thought, because it's that late night thought process, and I think it fits there. This maybe is the first look at that thought process as far as the Midnight stuff goes. But this one, I really enjoyed this one.
I mean, it's not a coincidence that this is, of any of the songs, this might be the most beloved song on the album. This was actually the only song from this album that I heard at the Eras tour.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of that, actually, this song is quite popular on TikTok.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
sure that played a big part in her putting it on the set list. And it was never a single, it was never on the radio, but it's always been a really well regarded song. And in fact, her fragrance that she released in 2011 is called Wonderstruck. Obviously, that comes from this song. So it's always been a really well regarded song. But now it's time for Who's the Song About? And this is a very indifferent one, to say the least. So, um, the media after this song, of course, they're wondering who's it about, and a lot of people picked the musician, but not John Mayer, not Harry Styles. He wasn't really around yet, but not somebody you would have thought of with Taylor Swift immediately. It was a guy named Adam Young, who is also known as Owl City, which is an electronic music project that had a brief moment in 2009, 2010. Um, they had their thing, and well, apparently, like they met one time, and I guess Adam Young thought it was him, and he recorded a response cover to the song, and oh, I'm gonna say Adam, buddy. It's not good. It's pretty cringy, actually. It makes Fireflies sound like a Beatles song. Um, that's where we're going here, folks. It's not good, but and she never confirmed or denied whether it was about him, and she did not respond to the song. And I mean, that was probably the right thing to do, frankly. He might have got his little heart crushed, but oh, somebody should have advised him differently on that. I think they probably should have told him, buddy, she's dating John Mayer. It's not you. It's sorry, you gotta. You're
I
Fireflies, man.
I don't know, man. I have to say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, Adam, kudos to you for shooting your shot at Taylor. Taylor, you're a classy lady, and you, with your no response, said enough, and that was perfect. But yeah, Adam, you shot your shot, buddy, and that's how it goes.
Definitely did over a really bad synth line. He did it.
Man, it is a weird listen, to say the least. And I feel like the cringiness for me comes from like taking the exact lyrics out
Yes.
and reworking them to be like, I love you. Basically,
Yes. I met you one
paraphrasing.
time, but I love you.
But I mean, shoot your shot, brother. Unfortunately, this one missed, but you shot it, man. You shot it. So kudos to you.
You did your thing. Yeah. What a note to end Enchanted on. But I will say that no response is not really something we'll be getting with this next song. This one is all drama. This one is Better Than Revenge. I want to hear your thoughts on this song first.
So my first notes on this, for me, this was the real first time I registered pop punk on this album, and that's my first notes on this. Pop punk on this album with a question mark and an exclamation point, because I wasn't expecting it and I didn't see it coming. This is definitely, I'll say in my opinion, but I think it's pretty much right there. This is the other side of that coin, that innocent, sweet, swift coin that we're all akin to. This is the Mean Girls side of her. I have to say, this composition, and you touched on a little bit earlier, it's just not my, it's not necessarily my favorite genre of music, period. Um, but this composition itself is a little cookie cutter to me. And if it wasn't for her and her lyrical prowess, and really in my opinion, the production of these quote unquote mean girl thoughts, being overlaid in the background of the track in almost this like Valley Girl style. I feel like that's what like her lyrical prowess and that production make this song, but without that, this composition is pretty cookie cutter and hot tea take what I come to expect from machine made pop punk.
Yeah, that
You know,
that is a fair take. Uh, this is a song with quite a loaded history actually behind it. That
okay.
that
See,
is
I looked at I couldn't find the history on this one. I
oh
knew most of the stuff you had said, but I couldn't figure out. And then I tried to remember like, is this the Selena Gomez stuff or whatever it was when they like made two groups, or maybe I'm messing up.
no. This
All
is
right.
before Selena Gomez. It's okay, so this song is allegedly about the actress Camilla Bell, who dated Joe Jonas after he dated Taylor Swift. And it's the song she's pretty much saying this woman stole her man. And she's so in the song back in 2010, the song after the first line of the chorus, she's not a saint and she's not what you think, she's an actress. The original line was, she's better known for the things that she does on the mattress.
Oh yeah, go on. I mean, why not leave it all on there if you're gonna do the mean girl take, you know?
Well, so because this is such a mean girl song, there were people at the time, they accused Taylor of slut shaming in this song. And I mean, come on, that's definitely, it's a valid criticism.
I mean, and
It's
Charlie's react.
real. I think it's
Yeah,
real coming from a 20-year-old, but it's a valid criticism.
Charlie's reacting to the crumbling of my face while he says that. But I don't know. I just feel like we give power to people on that stuff. Am I saying that slut shaming isn't real? No. Am I saying that she wasn't saying some hardcore shit here as a 20-year-old? Yes, but no way is she saying stuff that like anywhere near as risque as Alanis Morissette was saying on Ironic, or like shit like that. It don't start beating her up. She at least didn't say.
She's not as bitter as Alanis, though. Stay tuned for Alanis on this podcast. Spoiler alert, it's coming this year. Just wanted to say that now. But
there you go.
Back to this song. Yeah, Camilla Bell still had some thoughts on this song, like as of 2016, actually. She was commenting on this still. She was not happy about it. And a few years later, I'm not remembering the exact year, Taylor was asked about this song, and she said, I realize now that a woman would not like, nobody would steal a man. If somebody wants to leave, they will leave. I know that's a silly concept. And with that, she pretty much disowned this song. She's never performed it live since the tour for this album, not even as a surprise song. Almost every song gets performed. And she's pretty much, I mean, it seems like she pretty much disowned this song because it doesn't reflect her worldview. And because of that, there were a lot of people thinking, is she even going to include it on the re-recording? There were people thinking she might remove it because it's been pretty much disowned. Well, she didn't, but then there were people wondering, is she going to change the lyrics? And she did. The mattress line is now, he was a moth to the flame, she was holding the matches. And I mean, this song's obviously nostalgic for some people. I heard the original at the tailgate I went to before my Eras Tour show, and I straight up heard one young lady say the feminism goes out the door for this song.
She's young though. I mean,
Yeah.
she's 18, 20.
Yeah.
This
but,
is
but I still think that the new line works just fine too. Like, it wasn't lazy. It works just fine. And also, a lot of people are saying, like, this song sounds better than it did back then. It's not quite as cookie cutter pop punk now as it was even back in
Oof,
the day, but
heard it.
this is
Oh,
that moment, and it's not even a sound that she's returned to since, frankly, and that's for the best, but I do think it's one that a lot of people like, and it was definitely an influence on this album, for
I
better or
mean,
for worse.
yeah, I mean, class points to her for never playing it. Class points to her for switching the lyrics. I misunderstood you, and I thought you said originally she had written it, and this was the original lyrics. But
No.
and so I could see, I guess, where people got up in arms. But kudos to her for still putting it on here,
Yeah.
because even we're all human, and we all have the propensity to get into a moment where we let our anger get the best of us. um
Yes.
but what we choose to do going forward with that anger, in this case, not play the song and switch the lyric, is what defines us rather than the song. So go on, girl.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if the feminism goes out the door at that point. She in fact knows exactly who she is, and she's gonna say sorry in so many words or actions for this song, but she's not gonna act like it never happened, which I think is huge.
Well, also, let's note that in 2010, she wasn't making statements on feminism or any
Heard.
social stuff because pretty much she was told not to, actually. We learned that in her documentary. They said, if you talk about this stuff, you're going to end up like the Dixie Chicks, canceled. And so she didn't speak on any of this kind of stuff until 2018. And now she touches on it in her songs, and but she's had a lot of time to grow and think in that time, and I mean, that I think is what raises a lot of questions. It's like she's come out and now she's done these songs like Mad Woman off of Folklore or The Man off of Lover, where she's commenting on double standards that women face, and yet in the past we have Better Than Revenge. I think that's why it's so noteworthy to people, I'll say that.
Heard that.
But it's how people evolve. It's
Yeah.
but so it's interesting. Camilla Bell got that bratty pop punk song here, but if there was any person that people were associating with Taylor Swift, circa 2010, that you would have thought would have gotten a hardcore diss track against them, you would have thought it would have been the man who interrupted her at the VMAs to say Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. But instead, Taylor wrote the next song, which is Innocent. If you couldn't tell, this song is definitely about Kanye West. Um, and it, I feel like it's kind of portrayed as a more sympathetic look, like she's saying, "You're still an innocent," kind of like you don't know any better, Kanye. Um, I think that was kind of her point. I'm not gonna lie, this one's always been a skip for me, and it still is. This song did get criticism for being kind of patronizing. I can definitely see that point, but musically, I just don't think it goes anywhere. It's a really lightweight, empty composition for me. It goes on for too long, and frankly, at this point in time, it just hasn't aged well because so much has happened with Kanye since this time. I mean, this was before the days of anti Semitic tweets, and I made that bitch famous, but it just hasn't held up. Some are interpreting it as her singing to herself, which I think is a neat way to look at it, but I still don't really care for the song.
I have to say, I wish Kanye would listen to this song right now. And if there's one line in it that I think I would like him to really hear, it's that today is never too late to be brand new. And this is why I said let's pin this forgiveness thought earlier, because this is high class, man. This is high humanity right here from me. And just in what she's saying here alone, I don't necessarily in my opinion, take it as he doesn't know any better. It's more of her, even at this young age, having whatever grasp she could have about maturing and growing older and knowing that even though society might say 32, you got to be at this level, it's all really just the way the person grows, and it's never it's never too late to change yourself. I think I wish I would have written it down, but she says something akin to like, it's not where you've been, it's who you are. And it really it struck me. It struck me because this almost unconditional forgiveness inside of this the most cringe-worthy moment that I can remember in any awards show, maybe just under Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, and so it's huge for her, especially on this album where she's outing lovers and really speaking her mind. Christ, we're coming right off Better Than Revenge, and she says, you know what, this is the guy I want to forgive. This is the guy I want to say never too late to turn it around. And I think that's huge. As far as this one musically, if it wasn't, this is the second time I've said it on this album, but if it wasn't for the rhythm of her vocals, I feel like this song is exactly what you were saying. Like it goes nowhere. But I really love the fact that later on, instead of the drums pushing the syncopation here, it's really carried by her and the rhythm of her vocals. And that's the only thing other than the forgiveness vibe that really sticks the landing on this song for me. I love the forgiveness. I love the syncopation. Not my favorite song on the album, but kudos to you, girl, for turning the other cheek, because I'll say it again. I know a lot of people that couldn't. So good for you on this one. This is the most powerful time for you in the eye of the fans to turn your cheek and say, "Gotcha." Nah, Kanye, it's all good. You're just another artist caught up in the stuff. Oh, that was the other line where she even says, like, I'm paraphrasing again, but like, fame is this tightrope and it's really hard sometimes. She really gives him the benefit of the doubt throughout this. I got to give it to you, Tay Tay. I love it.
Well,
I love
unfortunately, it's debatable if that worked out for her based on everything that happened later. But, it's crazy to me in hindsight to think this was such a huge deal at the time. I mean, President Barack Obama called Kanye West a jackass for interrupting Taylor Swift. It was that big of a deal.
Rightfully so. He definitely effed up, and whether he will say it out loud, I hope that somewhere in his heart he knows that he effed up. He had to have well, I won't go down that route, but yeah, he effed up.
I don't. He's done a lot worse since then, these past 5 or 6 years, if you ask me. But that is not a discussion I want to have, frankly, because I'm going to get really fired up. So
I feel you. I feel you. It is, but all we can take away is turn the other cheek. Thank you, Taylor, for that.
No, I say fuck Kanye. That's what I say. I'm sorry.
I love it. No, I ain't mad at you. I'm not trying to stir your pot on this one because I know where it goes.
Seriously, what a piece of shit. I don't say that about many people, but whoa.
Would you say that you are haunted by his antics?
I think you could say so, but that's not what she was haunted by on our next song, which is Haunted. The most goth Taylor Swift song ever. And she described this as being about realizing the person that you love is drifting from you, and that's just so anxiety inducing. So she has this, that's why she wanted a whole orchestra with it. And we get that here. I will say that, so the strings originally were conducted by Paul Buckmaster, who's a really good composer. I'm not sure if he did them here. I'm guessing not. I don't like them quite as much, but they're still very well done. And this is the one song here I actually prefer her vocal on the original, because I think the original just has that youthful energy that this song is conveying. I don't think it's quite as well conveyed here, but I still think this is a really cool song. I'm nitpicking. I think it's so well put together, and just a totally different sound for her. This was not something you would have expected from Taylor Swift, and it's not really something we've gotten since, actually, but it's a really cool experiment and just a neat song all around. That's really all the best I can say about it. One of the most interesting tunes she has.
Super interesting. The strings, I love the strings, but this, I had come this far in the album and wasn't going back and forth. So I have to go and check them out again. But I really do love the way the strings are set in this. The single snare and that piano at the start here, I love them. It's such an awesome pairing. It's one of my favorites musically. So I was brought in by that. I really, and again, I'll have to check it on the other one because I love her vocals here. This is that falsetto top to bottom that I love that she does. For instance, or in this one, it's the I thought I had you figured. You know, I love that. I love that jump. The ability to jump that high and come back down is not easy, and she kills it. And again, it's the rhythm of her singing that really takes it to the next level for me. And even the fact that those notes are mimicking the strings slash piano throughout the song, and I love that as well. This is really, you said it the best, an interesting song. I dig this one.
So do I. But we're taking a turn away from the golf and into our sad singer songwriter mode with our next song, Last Kiss. It's a post breakup song about realizing you've had your last kiss with that person. Um, I think this is a really pretty song, and it's got a lot of those little details that make it feel more real, like wearing your clothes, July 9th, the smell of the rain, your face at 1:58, that kind of stuff. On that level, I've got nothing but respect for this song, but I'm not gonna lie, this is not one that I seek out individually a lot, and that's just because this is a sad song. She called it her saddest song. I'm not sure if it's quite that. There have been contenders since, but it's a long, sad song. And I'm not in the mood to cry every day, girl. That's why I'm not going back to this every day. It's a beautiful song, but it's just really depressing, frankly.
I breathe a sigh of relief on this one because I thought this was going to be one of those beloved songs that I was coming in.
Oh, it's
This song,
beloved by many.
yeah, oh, they all are, but this one, it's a beautiful composition. She does well with the symbolism, but it this one drags for me. It's a little bit too long. It's a nice composition. I will only say nice things about Taylor, and this one is it's okay, girl. It's all right. You know, I understand it. I understand where it's coming from. I understand where it's coming from being the penultimate track on the original album, and I can feel the pacing. It's just it hangs around a little bit too long for me. Maybe it is the sadness too, but I didn't equate the sadness in my notes. Just hangs around for a little bit too long for me.
Yeah. One thing I will say after this album, she has definitely gotten better with length and telling her stories in a more concise manner. But I think the length of these songs is representative of where she was and where anyone is at that age. You think you know everything, and every word you have to say is so important. That's how you are college age, frankly.
Yeah, and she very rarely misses we talk about sticking
Right.
a landing, but she very rarely misses that landing, even if she goes on for a good 6-7 minute song, which we see throughout here. Um, you're right. It's that younger moxie. And she reigns that in throughout her career from what I've found
Yeah.
through our lessons.
No, that is one good thing I think about her officially going pop. It made her write shorter songs, and I think that helped her a lot, even in terms of just being a singer-songwriter, as we saw later on. But we're still in those early days, and we're at the standard editions of the album's original closing track, which is Long Live. This one is dedicated to her fans that attend her shows, and it's definitely got a lot of fantasy elements. I've had the time of my life fighting dragons with you. This one definitely has the most like arena rock sound to it. I've heard that used to describe a few songs on this album, but none more so than this one. It does have that grandeur to it. I mean, I like this song is anthemic, and in that regard, I love it. And it's a beloved song by fans for an obvious reason because it's about them. And but what's really interesting about this song, despite all its anthemic qualities, one of the highlights of her Netflix Reputation Tour special is she performed this song as a mashup with a piano song off of Reputation called New Year's Day. And we hear this just on the piano, and it's still such a strong composition. And I think that seeing her perform on just those acoustic instruments live shows how sturdy these songs are. And this is another example of it. Just take the grandeur away from it. It's a beautifully written song. I don't think it's one that she'd write today, but it's definitely representative of this place and time. And well, it's now been added to the Eras Tour set list, it looks like. So still a
Ooh.
beloved song.
Well, I mean, that being said, I gotta ask, is it an encore? Because this was an
No.
encore song for me. No, this is a beautiful anthem for the end of an album. For
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, especially like you said, time, place, it encapsulates everything that a young artist is. And I think again, I give her all types of flowers. I'm constantly throwing flowers at this lady, but like for a 20-year-old, 18 to 20-year-old artist to be writing this symbolic of an anthem for her fans, just it's top. It's major league shit right here. And
Yes.
you can't you could strip it down like you said and it's still a solid song, but this is just that feel good piece to end an album. I could see people coming off this album in 2010 being like, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
And and that's what it was meant to do.
Yeah. But funny enough, back in the day, initially at least, if you bought a CD from Target, you got free bonus tracks. And so preface now, one of those bonus tracks is actually not included here because it was the one song on the album that had a co-writer. The song is called If This Was a Movie. She released it as a standalone, her re-recording of it as a standalone single right before the Eras tour started. And she now counts it as part of the Fearless era because she wanted this Taylor's version to actually truly be every song only written by her. So as a result, we don't get that song here. But we still have two more to go for this segment of this episode. So the first one we've got is ours, and this one fans ate up so much that it actually became a single in 2011. It was the fifth single sent to radio. And it's really about a couple trying to tough it out despite the scrutiny. I feel like she's just foreshadowing the Joe Alwyn relationship that we hear about on Midnight's like 10 years earlier almost. But um I think this is a cute song. That's what I will say. It has a nice little bounce to it. It's very light. I don't think it's the most substantial thing we've heard on this album, and I can see why it was chosen as a bonus track. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a little too flowery for me, I guess. It's not one I go back to a lot.
Yeah, I can see how they could call it out for a fifth single though, and
Oh yeah.
it shines like that. I'm a sucker for a good fan brush on a snare. I love that laid back feel that it automatically gives me as a listener. You talked about the playfulness or the cuteness of this. And one of my notes was I love the way that she gets her chuckles in the composition, like she gets to laugh inside of it. This is pure young love for me. This is a love that's gonna try to overcome anything thrown its way, and I'm a sucker for that too. As if you're a long time listener, I'm a hopeless romantic. So it hits, but yeah, it's a bonus track and a fifth single. A cool song, but not something that belonged up on the album. And kudos to them for realizing that.
Yes. And now we've got the other bonus track we're going to discuss today. One of the most maligned songs in Taylor Swift's discography, Superman. Um, it's believed this song's about John Mayer, so about better times in their relationship. If she watched Superman fly away, um, so I actually remember where I was when I first heard this song. It was back in a few while ago. It was my freshman year of college. I heard this at a CVS in Salisbury, Maryland, and it stuck out to me. It's like, what is this? Because I was a huge 1989 fan, but I didn't go into anything else because that album was all I could listen to for months. I'm not kidding there. And it's like, what's I watched Superman fly away. I'm like, this song, it's catchy, but it's stupid. But something about it endeared me in a way. And since then, I would say this before we get to this re-recording, this was a guilty pleasure Taylor Swift song for me. Like, is it a big, dumb, stupid song? Yes, it is. She's talking about her boyfriend being Superman. I mean, it's pretty lightweight and silly, but that's part of the charm of it for me. I know I dogged ours for that kind of, but this is silly in a different way. Like, go save the world, I'll be at your side. Um, but now, funny story, this re-recording comes. I think this is the most improved song from the original. I was shocked. I was like, just the production is so much better this time around. I was like blown away by it. I was like, how is Superman the biggest upgrade of all the songs on the album? And I'm not the only person saying that. And of course, all the closet or not closet Superman fans are coming out online saying Superman's a banger, and all the fans better admit it now. What do you think of Superman?
I wasn't really captivated by it. I thought literally, and my notes are very rarely this short. But my exact notes for this were power ballad, cool story. It didn't hit me. It didn't hit me musically. I could see I can try to see that the production was better this time. That's here's the thing I didn't enjoy about it. It felt overproduced, and it felt like it was like Bush League Taylor. Like, even though it's a cool story and it's neat, don't get me wrong, and it has that beautiful happy feel of like, I'll be here waiting for you no matter what, Superman. In fact, I listened to it 3 times. The second time I went back to see if it was about like a daughter singing it to a father.
Some people think that,
Oh, really? Oh, see, because
possibly.
I felt like there were lines in there that really shot that down, but it just, I don't know, man. It felt like Bush League Taylor. It felt like second-rate Taylor symbolism. It felt like it was too on the nose, and for me, it was just one of her weaker stories as
Oh,
far
it
as
definitely
that
is,
goes.
but
Yeah.
that's why it's a guilty pleasure. And
No, I loved when you said guilty pleasure because I was like, I can dig that because it's not my favorite, but I can see where a Taylor aficionado would be like, you know what, that's my joint. I keep on the side and don't talk to anybody about. I see that. I can see that 100%. Yeah, and maybe it garners another listen for me, but it just didn't hit me right. As far as this high bar, and again, we talk about this retroactive bar. I've got today's Taylor bar, and I'm looking back at 18 to 20-year-old Taylor. So I gotta
but
give
I
her
do have
benefit.
one more question for you. You have to wouldn't you expect Superman to be overproduced after all his time in the DC extended universe?
I feel you. I mean, I guess we could reach there and say it's a super powered production, but it's just a little bit too overpowered. He got close to a Lex Luthor type of deal rather than a Superman in
This
this
should be
for
in
the
the
sake of
next
production.
Superman movie soundtrack.
Well,
They need to
let's
lighten up a bit. over there. So you know what?
This could be the main theme for a Lois Lane story. How about that?
I mean, this is Lois Lane singing it.
Heard.
They're doing the next Joker's going to be a musical. We can do it with Superman, maybe, you know.
There you go. There you go. You gotta talk to
Hey,
James Gunn.
Lois has got to make a comeback because what Aquaman has Amber Turd in it. I mean, come on.
I'll tell you, you got to talk to James Gunn. I think he has other plans than a musical, but we'll see.
James Gunn, Superman, Taylor's version. I know you have good taste in music because of your Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. So I think he loves a good cheesy pop song.
That's the title for the movie too, except not Taylor's version, Superman, Lois's version. There you go. See, we're writing it already.
Yes, but this will be the hooked on a feeling of the next Superman movie.
I love it. I love it.
But
Great thought.
enough riffing about Superman. So we're now at the kind of end of the album as we're going to do it today, because in total we have 22 songs here. So what we're going to do next time is do a mini episode of you where we discuss the 6 from the vault songs, all songs that were never before released and recorded for this album and being released to the public for the first time. So to us, unless you were diehard listening to unreleased demos, these are brand new songs. So I think that's one of the coolest things about this re-recording project is she's going into this vault and bringing out these other songs from the sessions that just didn't make it in the last time, because you're writing so many songs per album. Not everything's going to get heard. You got to trim it down. So, and, that's where we ask our questions about, like, is it best that we're getting it now? Should have been on it then? Who knows? But we're going to discuss that next time because we think it needs its own thing. But in the meantime, we're going to do our usual thing with just with these 16 songs here, and you can include the others too in your overall assessment. But what is your grade for the album?
This grade was without Vault. I'm gonna let Vault be its own thing, and just to reiterate what Charlie was saying, we're gonna publish our normal one that you're listening to right now, and then within like a day or two, we're gonna have this mini one pop out as well. So it won't be a full week in between like our usual episodes. But I'm gonna leave them all out of this grading. And I've already spoken to this high bar that I give this lady. But for us to get a re-recorded version of her 18 to 20-year-old thoughts, and for me to be blown away from, I mean, start to finish, really. If I say there's a misstep, it's like we've been saying throughout this, nitpicking. Like, yeah, you might have heard me say not my favorite on the album, but if you're a first-time listener, I'll let you know that doesn't mean I think it's a terrible song. And if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that that's just something we like to do, and to give a little bit of range on this. But there is no place in this that I feel is an empty spot. The pacing, we didn't even talk about pacing and a lot of the times we don't. It's because it's so seamless and flawless. This album listens so easy. It flows through. Like I said, I've listened to it almost 15 times, and it goes and goes and goes. I can only imagine listening to this back in 2010, but listening to it now, I have to give it an A. Am I in love with Taylor Swift, and that's why I keep giving her all these A's? No. But I am in love with this artist that I'm learning throughout these listens, and whether it be from the back of the catalog to the front or the front to the back, I can't take away from what she laid down on this album as an 18 to 20-year-old artist, and now going back and tuning it up and crisping the production and just doing it all again. kudos to you, lady. You deserve an A on this one.
Yep, I unsurprisingly have the same grade for it. She's always just known how to construct just a really strong front to back album. We've seen that before on this show when we covered Folklore and Midnights. Go listen to those if you haven't already. And again, and I think it really is a testament to, yes, she was young when she wrote these songs, but they still are so sturdy that they hold up all this time later, being sung by a more mature woman. Like, it's still okay for the woman who did these more cynical songs since, I guess you could say, to go back to this more optimistic, idealistic viewpoint. And it's all part of the evolution. And I think it's truly fascinating what we're getting here. And are there albums that I've over time come to like more, albums that have been released since this one? Yes, there are, but this is a very important part of her journey, and it's not one that can be overlooked. And for that, that's why I think it's so important that we're here discussing it today. So with that being said, what is your track pick, favorite song?
Never Grow Up. Solely on the fact that I was blown away and just flabbergasted by her ability to weave this tale. It is my favorite on the album.
Yeah, mine is Story of Us.
There you go.
I love that punchiness to it with the heartbreak narrative. It just works so well. And it's a combination that she's done over and over again, and she does it well every time. And just a real winner. And I'm not that pop punk, so you know what? there we have it. But in the meantime, do stay tuned for our mini episode on the vault tracks. There are 6 of them. I'm really excited to discuss them. I know a lot of people already have a lot of thoughts on them, so I'm real interested in diving into those with you. And that's coming out real soon, so that'll be our next episode. So in the meantime, just stay tuned for that, I guess.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a bunch of. We're gonna dive in, so that's why we're separating it from this, because these are tracks that we've never heard, which is so cool, you know. So yeah, what, a day or two from when you're listening right now, it's popping out. Be ready for it.
And even if you don't care about this, you're going to want to listen, because that's when we'll reveal what our next episode is. So we're going to make you wait in suspense and listen to part 2 of this first, because we're not done with this yet. So in the meantime, this podcast is ours. I'm so happy we get to do this every week. And just stay tuned another day or two for the next episode.